Kwon Jae-sung walked through the busy airport terminal with his worn backpack slung over one shoulder. He wore a simple gray hoodie and comfortable jeans. His sneakers were old but clean. To anyone watching, he looked like a regular traveler, maybe a college student or a young teacher heading home. But Jae-sung was neither of those things. He was the founder and CEO of Starbridge Technologies, one of the most successful tech companies in the world. His company was worth billions of dollars. He had houses in 3 countries and could buy almost anything he wanted, but none of that showed on the outside today. Jae-sung preferred it this way. When he dressed simply, people treated him like a normal person. He could walk through airports without being recognized. He could sit in coffee shops and work on his laptop in peace. It reminded him of his early days when he was just a kid with big dreams and empty pockets. The flight from Seoul to San Francisco was long, about 11 hours. Jae-sung had booked a first-class seat because he needed to work during the flight and get some rest. He had important meetings waiting for him in California. His assistant had arranged everything weeks ago. As he approached the gate, Jae-sung noticed the other first-class passengers. They wore expensive suits and designer clothes. They carried leather briefcases and luxury brand luggage. Several of them talked loudly on their phones about business deals and stock prices. They looked like the kind of people who always flew first class. Jae-sung didn't mind. He had been one of them once, wearing fancy suits and carrying expensive bags. But over the years, he had learned that clothes didn't make a person important. Hard work, kindness, and integrity did. So he had stopped trying to look rich and just focused on being himself. The boarding announcement came through the speakers. First-class passengers were invited to board first. Jae-sung picked up his backpack and joined the line. He showed his boarding pass to the gate agent, who scanned it without really looking at him. Then he walked down the jet bridge toward the plane. Inside the aircraft, a flight attendant stood near the entrance. Her name tag read Park Min-ju. She was a woman in her late 40s with perfectly styled hair and sharp eyes. She smiled warmly at each first-class passenger as they entered. Her smile was professional and welcoming. But when Jae-sung stepped through the door, something changed. Min-ju's smile faded. Her eyes moved from his face to his hoodie, then to his old backpack. She looked confused, then suspicious. Her welcoming expression disappeared completely. "Excuse me," Min-ju said, stepping in front of Jae-sung. "Can I see your boarding pass?" Jae-sung reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. He showed her the digital boarding pass on his screen. Seat 2A, first class. Min-ju stared at the screen for a long moment. She looked at Jae-sung again, then back at the phone. Her lips pressed into a thin line. "There must be some mistake," she said slowly, speaking louder than necessary. "This can't be right." "I don't think there's a mistake," Jae-sung replied calmly. "That's my seat. 2A. "Sir, are you sure you didn't accidentally book the wrong class?" Min-ju asked. She spoke very slowly, like she was talking to a child. "Economy class is toward the back of the plane. This is first class. The tickets are very expensive." Several passengers who had already taken their seats turned to watch. Jae-sung could feel their eyes on him. He kept his voice polite and steady. "I know this is first class," he said. "That's where my seat is. Seat 2A. Min-ju's face hardened. She clearly didn't believe him. She looked past Jae-sung at the other passengers waiting to board behind him. They all looked annoyed at the delay. "Please step aside," Min-ju said to Jae-sung. "You're blocking the aisle." "I need to let the other passengers through. I just need to get to my seat," Jae-sung said. He was still calm, but he could feel the situation getting worse. "Not until we figure this out," Min-ju insisted. She raised her voice even more. "First-class passengers, please come through." "Sir, stand over there by the galley." Jae-sung moved to the side, letting other passengers pass. They stared at him as they walked by. Some of them whispered to each other. A few shook their heads, clearly thinking he didn't belong there. Min-ju called out to someone in the back. "So-yeon, can you come here, please?" Another flight attendant appeared. Choi So-yeon was the cabin supervisor. She was younger than Min-ju, maybe in her 30s. She looked professional and efficient. "What's the problem?" So-yeon asked. Min-ju gestured toward Jae-sung. "This passenger has a first-class boarding pass, but I think there's been an error. Can you check the manifest?" So-yeon pulled out a tablet and scrolled through it. She found seat 2A and read the name. "Kwon Jae-sung," she said aloud. She looked up at Jae-sung. "Is that you?" "Yes," Jae-sung answered. Seo-yeon looked him up and down, taking in his casual clothes and old backpack. Her expression became doubtful too. "Do you have an ID?" she asked. Jae-sung pulled out his passport and handed it to her. Seo-yeon examined it carefully, checking the photo against his face. The passport was definitely his. Everything matched, but Seo-yeon still looked uncertain. She glanced at Min-ju, then back at Jae-sung. "This seems unusual," Seo-yeon said carefully. "First-class tickets are very expensive." "How did you purchase this ticket?" "My assistant booked it," Jae-sung explained. "Just like always, your assistant?" Min-ju repeated, her tone dripping with disbelief. She laughed shortly. "Of course." By now, all the first-class passengers had boarded. They were settled in their seats, but everyone was watching the drama unfold. The cabin felt tense. A man in an expensive suit sitting in seat 3C spoke up. His name was Robert Chen, and he looked like a wealthy businessman. "Is there a problem?" he asked loudly. "Some of us have work to do." "We're handling it, sir," Seo-yeon said politely. "Doesn't look like you're handling it," another passenger muttered. "Looks like someone's trying to sneak into first class." A few people laughed. The sound made Jae-sung's jaw tighten, but he said nothing. Min-ju crossed her arms. "Sir, I'm going to need you to come with me. We need to sort this out before takeoff. If there's been a mistake with your booking, we can move you to your correct seat in economy." "There's no mistake," Jae-sung said firmly. "I paid for seat 2A. I'd like to sit in seat 2A. "The manifest might be wrong," Seo-yeon said. "These things happen sometimes. Computer errors." "The computer isn't wrong," Jae-sung replied. "I belong in that seat." Min-ju's face flushed red. She clearly didn't like being contradicted. "Sir, you need to cooperate. Otherwise, I'll have to call security." "Call security for what?" Jae-sung asked. "I have my boarding pass. I have my passport. I have my ticket. What exactly is the problem?" "The problem," Min-ju said, her voice rising, "is that you don't look like you belong in first class." The words hung in the air. Several passengers gasped. Others nodded in agreement. Jae-sung stood very still, letting the statement sink in. "What does someone in first class look like?" he asked quietly. Min-ju realized what she had said. She tried to backtrack. "I didn't mean... I just meant that usually first-class passengers they carry different luggage. They dress more what?" Jae-sung pressed. Seo-yeon stepped in, trying to smooth things over. "Let's all calm down. Sir, if you could just wait while we verify your ticket with the gate agent." "I already showed my ticket to the gate agent," Jae-sung interrupted. "She let me board. Everything is verified." "Nevertheless," Seo-yeon said stiffly, "we need to be certain." Min-ju pulled out her phone and made a call. She spoke in a low voice, occasionally glancing at Jae-sung. When she hung up, she looked almost triumphant. "Security is coming," she announced. "They'll escort you off the plane so we can straighten this out on the ground." "You're kicking me off the plane?" Jae-sung asked. His voice was still calm, but there was steel underneath it now. "We're not kicking you off," Seo-yeon said quickly. "We're just asking you to step off temporarily while we resolve this confusion." "There's no confusion," Jae-sung said. "You just don't believe I can afford to sit here." The cabin went completely silent. Everyone stared. Min-ju's face turned even redder, but she didn't deny it. Heavy footsteps echoed through the jet bridge. A security officer entered the plane. His name tag identified him as Yoon Dae-ho. He was a large man with broad shoulders and a serious expression. He looked like someone who didn't tolerate nonsense. Min-ju immediately rushed over to him. "Thank goodness you're here," she said dramatically. "We have a situation." Dae-ho looked at Jae-sung standing by the galley with his backpack. Then he looked at the expensive first-class cabin around them. His expression hardened. "What's going on?" Dae-ho asked. "This passenger insists he belongs in first class," Min-ju explained, her voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "But we believe there's been an error. He doesn't have the proper documentation." "I have my boarding pass and my passport," Jae-sung said directly to Dae-ho. "They've already checked both." "Everything is in order." Dae-ho held out his hand. "Let me see." Jae-sung showed him the digital boarding pass again. Dae-ho squinted at it, then looked at Jae-sung's casual clothes. His expression made it clear what he was thinking. "This doesn't seem right," Dae-ho said slowly. "First-class tickets cost thousands of dollars." "I know how much they cost," Jae-sung replied. "I bought one." "Did you really?" Min-ju asked sarcastically. She turned to the other passengers as if they were her audience. Because honestly, sir, people like you usually try to sneak into first class. We see it all the time. Someone buys an economy ticket, then tries to sit up here and hope nobody notices. Several passengers nodded. A woman in seat 4B, Margaret Hamilton, pulled out her phone and started recording. She wasn't even trying to hide it. She held the phone up and filmed Jae-sung with a little smile on her face. "This is going on social media," Margaret said to her seatmate with a laugh. "Wait until my friends see this." Jae-sung glanced at the phone but said nothing. He kept his attention on Dae-ho. "I have a ticket for seat 2A, Jae-sung repeated firmly. "I would like to sit in seat 2A. If you think there's a problem, call the airline. Call the gate agent. Call whoever you need to call, but I'm not getting off this plane." Dae-ho's jaw clenched. "Sir, if you don't cooperate, this will become a much bigger problem." "I am cooperating," Jae-sung said. "I've shown you everything you asked for. What more do you want?" Minju stepped forward, her voice getting even louder. "What we want is for you to stop making a scene. You're delaying this flight. You're disturbing other passengers. If you can't afford a first-class ticket, that's fine. There's no shame in it. But you can't just pretend to be someone you're not." Robert Chen, the businessman in seat 3C, laughed out loud. "Seriously, man. Just admit you made a mistake and go to the back. Some of us have actual important work to do." Another passenger, a woman in an expensive designer outfit, chimed in. "This is ridiculous. It's so obvious what's happening here. Why are we wasting time, right?" Margaret said, still filming. "I mean, look at him. Look at that backpack. My housekeeper has nicer luggage." More laughter rippled through the cabin. Some passengers weren't laughing, though. A young woman in seat 2C, Kim Hana, looked uncomfortable. She kept glancing at Jae-sung, then looking away. She seemed like she wanted to say something but couldn't quite bring herself to speak up. Minju was warming to her audience now. She gestured at Jae-sung like he was evidence in a trial. "You know what I think happened? I think someone gave him a fake boarding pass. Or maybe he found someone's old boarding pass and changed it on his computer. That's fraud. That's a crime. I didn't fake anything," Jae-sung said. His voice was still calm, but there was an edge to it now. "Everything I've shown you is real." "Then you won't mind if I check your bag," Minju declared. She reached for Jae-sung's backpack before he could respond. "Wait." Jae-sung started to object, but Minju had already grabbed the backpack. "Just making sure you're not carrying anything suspicious," she said. She unzipped the bag and dumped the contents onto the galley counter. Out fell a laptop, a charging cable, a book, a bottle of water, and a few energy bars. That was it. Nothing expensive. Nothing fancy. Just the basics that any traveler might carry. Minju picked up the laptop. It was an older model, a few years old. Certainly not the newest, most expensive computer. "This is what first-class passengers carry?" Minju asked mockingly, holding up the laptop for everyone to see. "Please, first-class passengers have the latest technology. They have designer bags. They have expensive watches." She grabbed Jae-sung's wrist and held up his arm. "Look, he's wearing a $20 watch." It was true. Jae-sung wore a simple digital watch he had bought years ago. It still worked perfectly, so he had never replaced it. Robert Chen shook his head. "Unbelievable. Buddy, you're not fooling anyone. The jig is up," another passenger called out. "Just go sit where you actually belong." Margaret was loving this. She zoomed in with her phone camera, capturing every detail of Jae-sung's cheap watch and old laptop. "This is gold," she muttered. "Absolute gold." Dae-ho put a hand on Jae-sung's shoulder. His grip was firm. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to come with me. We're going to straighten this out at the gate." "Take your hand off me," Jae-sung said quietly. There was something in his tone that made Dae-ho pause, but he didn't let go. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be," Dae-ho warned. Seo Yan stepped in, trying to be the voice of reason. "Perhaps we should check the passenger manifest one more time, just to be absolutely certain." "We've already checked," Minju snapped. "How many times do we need to check? It's obvious what's happening here. This man somehow got a first-class boarding pass that doesn't belong to him. Maybe he stole it. Maybe he faked it. Maybe someone gave it to him as a joke, but he does not belong in this cabin." "I paid for this seat," Jae-sung said. His patience was wearing thin. "I have paid for first-class seats on this airline dozens of times. I fly this route regularly. If you would just check your records." "Your records?" Minju interrupted with a harsh laugh. "Sir, I've been a flight attendant for 20 years. I know what first-class passengers look like. I know how they dress. I know how they act. And you are not one of them. The words stung because they were so direct. Minju wasn't even trying to hide her prejudice anymore. She had decided based on how Jae-sung looked that he didn't belong, and nothing was going to change her mind. Kim Hana, the young woman in seat 2C, finally spoke up. Her voice was soft and hesitant. Excuse me? Maybe we should just check the computer system. If his name is in the system for that seat, then there's no problem, right? Minju shot her an irritated look. The system can be hacked. People do it all the time. But if his name is there? Hana tried again. Stay out of this, please, Minju said sharply. This doesn't concern you. Hana shrank back in her seat, her face red. She had tried, but it hadn't worked. Daeho tightened his grip on Jae-sung's shoulder. Come on, let's go. Don't make me carry you off this plane. You're not going to carry me anywhere, Jae-sung said firmly. He shook off Daeho's hand and stood his ground. I want to speak to the captain. This brought fresh laughter from the passengers. Several people actually clapped their hands together in amusement. He wants to speak to the captain, Robert Chen repeated, laughing. Oh, that's rich. What do you think the captain is going to do? Give you a free upgrade? The captain will tell you the same thing we're telling you, Minju said. You need to leave. Then get the captain, Jae-sung insisted. I'm not moving until I speak to whoever is flying this plane. Minju rolled her eyes. Fine. You want to embarrass yourself even more? I'll get the captain. But I'm warning you, he's not going to be happy about being disturbed for something this ridiculous. She turned and marched toward the cockpit, her heels clicking loudly on the floor. The cabin buzzed with conversation. Passengers were talking excitedly about the drama unfolding before them. Margaret was still recording everything. This is going to get so many views, she said happily. I can't wait to post this. A man in seat 1A leaned toward his companion. I bet you $50 the captain throws him off in under a minute. I'll take that bet, his friend replied. I say 30 seconds. They both laughed. Daeho kept close to Jae-sung, ready to grab him if he tried to run. But Jae-sung wasn't going anywhere. He stood calmly by the galley, waiting. His expression was neutral, but inside he felt a familiar tiredness. This wasn't the first time something like this had happened. It wouldn't be the last. Being a black man in Asia meant facing assumptions constantly. Being a black man in expensive spaces meant being questioned and doubted. He had dealt with it his whole life, but that didn't make it any easier. Hana caught his eye and mouthed, I'm sorry. Jae-sung nodded slightly, acknowledging her attempt to help earlier. At least one person on this plane saw him as a human being. The cockpit door opened, and Captain Lee Sang-min stepped into the cabin. He was a man in his early 50s with gray streaks in his dark hair. His uniform was crisp and perfectly pressed. He wore his captain's stripes with quiet authority. His face showed the calm confidence of someone who had flown thousands of flights. Minju hurried alongside him, talking rapidly. Captain Lee, I'm so sorry to bother you, but we have a serious situation. This passenger claims he has a first-class ticket, but we believe he's trying to scam his way into the cabin. He refuses to cooperate, and he's delaying the flight. Security is already here, but he demanded to speak with you personally. Sang-min listened without responding. His eyes moved to Jae-sung, who stood quietly by the galley. The captain's expression revealed nothing. He had learned long ago not to jump to conclusions based on first impressions. He's wearing a hoodie and old sneakers, Minju continued, her voice dripping with disdain. His backpack looks like something a student would carry. His watch probably cost less than lunch in the airport. Captain, I've been doing this job for 20 years. I know when something isn't right. I see, Sang-min said simply. He walked toward Jae-sung with measured steps. The entire cabin watched in silence. Even Margaret stopped recording for a moment, not wanting to miss what happened next. Good morning, Sang-min said to Jae-sung. His voice was professional but not unkind. I understand there's some confusion about your seat assignment. There's no confusion on my part, Jae-sung replied evenly. I have a ticket for seat 2A. I've shown my boarding pass and my passport. Both are legitimate. May I see them? Sang-min asked politely. Jae-sung pulled out his phone again and showed the digital boarding pass. Then he handed over his passport. Sang-min took both and examined them carefully. He looked at the boarding pass, checked the name, and then studied the passport photo. His eyes widened slightly. It was a small reaction, barely noticeable. But Jae-sung saw it. So did Minju, though she misunderstood what it meant. "You see?" Minju said to the captain. "Something's wrong, isn't it?" Sangmin didn't answer her. He looked at the passport photo again, then at Jae-sung's face. Recognition dawned in his eyes. His entire demeanor shifted. The neutral professionalism was replaced by something else. Concern, maybe even worry. "Captain?" Minju prompted. "Should we have security remove him?" Sangmin held up one hand, silencing her. He continued to stare at Jae-sung, and now there was something like shock in his expression. "Is this really you?" Sangmin asked quietly. The question was strange given that the passport photo clearly matched Jae-sung's face. "Yes," Jae-sung confirmed. Sangmin closed the passport carefully. He took a long, slow breath. Then he turned to face Minju, Seo-yeon, and Dae-ho. His expression had hardened into something serious and disappointed. "The three of you need to come with me," Sangmin said firmly. "Now." Minju blinked in surprise. "What?" "Captain, I don't understand." "Now," Sangmin repeated. His tone left no room for argument. Minju, Seo-yeon, and Dae-ho exchanged confused glances. Minju looked almost triumphant, clearly believing the captain was taking them aside to plan Jae-sung's removal from the aircraft. They followed Sangmin toward the front galley area, away from the passengers. The captain spoke to them in a low, tense voice. The passengers couldn't hear what he was saying, but they could see Minju's face going from confident to confused to pale. So-yeon's eyes grew wider with each word. Dae-ho actually took a step backward, shaking his head. The conversation lasted about 2 minutes. When it ended, Minju looked like she might faint. Seo-yeon pressed a hand to her mouth. Dae-ho stared at his shoes. Sangmin returned to the main cabin. He walked to the center of the first-class section and pressed the button for the intercom. A beep sounded through the entire plane. "Good morning, ladies and gentlemen," Sangmin said, his voice broadcasting through the speakers. "This is Captain Lee Sangmin. Before we begin our flight today, I need to address a situation that has occurred in the first-class cabin." The passengers leaned forward, eager to hear the announcement. Robert Chen smiled, expecting to hear about Jae-sung being removed. Margaret raised her phone again, ready to capture the moment. "One of our passengers was questioned, doubted, and harassed by our crew," Sangmin continued. His voice was steady but clearly angry. He was treated with suspicion and disrespect based entirely on his appearance. Several passengers laughed at him. Some mocked him. Others recorded him without permission. This behavior is completely unacceptable. The smiles disappeared. Passengers began to shift uncomfortably in their seats. "The passenger in question has every right to be in seat 2A, Sangmin said. "His ticket is legitimate. His boarding pass is real. There was never any confusion about his seat assignment. The only problem was the assumption that someone dressed casually could not possibly afford to sit in first class." Minju stood frozen by the galley, her face bright red. She looked like she wanted to disappear. "I want to tell you who this passenger is," Sangmin continued. "This is Kwon Jae-sung. He is the founder and CEO of Starbridge Technologies." A few gasps echoed through the cabin. Several passengers pulled out their phones, quickly searching the name. Their faces changed as they read what they found. "Starbridge Technologies," Sangmin said, "is one of the most successful technology companies in the world. Mr. Kwon's company is valued at over $40 billion. More importantly for this flight, Starbridge is a major investor in this airline. Mr. Kwon personally owns 30% of the shares in this company." The cabin went completely silent. Margaret's phone slowly lowered. Robert Chen's face drained of color. "But that's not why I'm telling you this," Sangmin said. His voice grew softer, more personal. "I'm telling you this because Mr. Kwon changed my life. 25 years ago, I was a young man with a dream of becoming a pilot. I came from a poor family. I had no money for flight school, no connections, no opportunities. I was going to give up." Sangmin paused, gathering his emotions. The cabin was so quiet that people could hear their own heartbeats. "Then I learned about a new scholarship program," the captain continued. "It was created by a young entrepreneur who had just made his first million. He wanted to help people like me, people who had dreams but no resources. The scholarship paid for my entire training. It covered every expense. Without that program, I would not be standing here today as a captain." Several passengers were now looking at Jae-sung with dawning comprehension and shame. That young entrepreneur was Kwon Jae-sung, Sang-min said. The man you laughed at. The man you doubted. The man you recorded and mocked. He gave me the chance to become a pilot. Over the past 25 years, his scholarship program has trained over 3,000 pilots. Many of them are flying for this airline right now. Sang-min's voice grew harder again. Mr. Kwon also donated $50 million to expand aviation access for underprivileged communities around the world. He has given more money to aviation education than almost anyone else in the industry. He has personally mentored hundreds of young people trying to break into this field. Margaret deleted her video with shaking hands. Robert Chen stared straight ahead, refusing to meet anyone's eyes. And today, Sang-min said, he was treated like a criminal. He was accused of fraud. His belongings were searched without permission. He was grabbed by security and threatened with removal from the aircraft. All because he chose to dress comfortably for a long flight. The captain's eyes swept across the first-class cabin, making eye contact with several passengers who had participated in the mockery. I am ashamed, Sang-min said simply. Ashamed of my crew, ashamed of this airline, and ashamed of those passengers who chose to laugh rather than think. The words hit like physical blows. Some passengers looked down at their laps. Others stared out the windows. No one looked proud anymore. Flight attendants Park Min-ju and Choi Seo-yeon are suspended effective immediately, Sang-min announced. They will be escorted off this aircraft and will not complete this journey. Security officer Yoon Dae-ho is also suspended pending a full investigation. Min-ju made a small sound of protest, but Sang-min silenced her with a look. Another crew will take over their duties, the captain said. This flight will be delayed while we make these arrangements. I apologize to those passengers who were not involved in this incident. For those who were involved, I hope you will use this delay to reflect on your behavior. Sang-min turned off the intercom. He walked directly to Jae-sung and stood in front of him. The captain looked pained. Mr. Kwon, he said quietly, I cannot begin to apologize for what happened here today. There are no words that can excuse this treatment. You're not the one who should apologize, Jae-sung replied. But I am responsible for this crew, Sang-min said. And I'm responsible for the environment that allowed this to happen. You gave me everything I have in my career. You changed my life. And today my airline repaid you with humiliation. You didn't know who I was when you checked my passport, Jae-sung observed. Something told you to look more carefully. What was it? Sang-min smiled sadly. Your eyes. I saw something in your eyes. Dignity, strength. The kind that comes from facing difficulties and overcoming them. It reminded me of myself 25 years ago. And then I looked at your name and I remembered. I remembered the signature on my scholarship letter. He extended his hand. I never thought I would meet you face to face. I always wanted to thank you personally for what you did for me. Jae-sung shook his hand. You don't need to thank me. You earned your wings, because you gave me the chance, Sang-min replied. A chance nobody else would give me. The captain turned to address the cabin one more time without the intercom. His voice was clear enough for everyone to hear. I want to be very clear, he said. What happened here today was discrimination. It was prejudice. It was wrong. And it will not be tolerated. Not on my aircraft. Not on any aircraft in this fleet. We will be reviewing our training procedures. We will be implementing new policies. And we will be holding every crew member accountable for their behavior. He looked at Jae-sung. Is there anything you need? I can arrange another flight. A different aircraft. Whatever you prefer. Jae-sung shook his head. I just want to sit in my seat and fly to San Francisco. Same as I planned. Min-ju, Seo-yeon, and Dae-ho gathered their belongings in silence. Other crew members had arrived to replace them. These new attendants moved quietly and efficiently, avoiding eye contact with everyone. The tension in the cabin was thick enough to cut with a knife. As Min-ju walked toward the exit, she glanced at Jae-sung one more time. Her face showed a mixture of shame, fear, and dawning realization about what she had done. Tears were forming in her eyes. 20 years of her career, possibly ended because of 15 minutes of terrible judgment. So-yeon followed behind her, clutching her bag tightly. She was younger, and this might be the end of her career before it had truly begun. Dae-ho brought up the rear, his shoulders slumped. He had been so sure he was right. So certain that appearances told the whole story. They left the plane without saying a word. The door closed behind them with a final, definitive sound. Captain Sang-min gestured toward seat 2A. Please, Mr. Kwon, make yourself comfortable. Jae-sung picked up his backpack and walked to his seat. Every passenger watched him move down the aisle. No one was laughing now. No one was smiling. The first-class cabin felt like a funeral. Jae-sung settled into seat 2A by the window. The seat was spacious and comfortable, exactly what he had paid for. He placed his backpack in the storage area and buckled his seatbelt. He looked out the window at the tarmac below. Trying to let the stress of the past half-hour drain away, the captain made one more announcement, this time informing the economy passengers about the brief delay due to a crew change. He kept the explanation vague, not mentioning what had actually happened. Within 20 minutes, new flight attendants were in position, and the plane began its pushback from the gate. As the aircraft taxied toward the runway, a soft voice spoke beside Jae-sung. "Excuse me?" He turned to see Kim Hana, the young woman in seat 2C leaning across the empty seat between them. She looked nervous but determined. "I wanted to apologize," Hana said quietly. "I should have spoken up more strongly. I knew what was happening was wrong, but I was too scared to really stand up to them." "I'm sorry." Jae-sung studied her for a moment. She looked genuinely distressed. "You did speak up," he said. "You suggested checking the computer system. That was more than most people did. But I should have done more," Hana insisted. "I should have been louder. I should have defended you." "It's hard to stand up to authority figures," Jae-sung said gently. "It's hard to go against a crowd. Most people don't do it, even when they know something is wrong. The fact that you feel bad about it shows you have good character." Hana's eyes were wet. "I kept thinking about what I would want someone to do if I were in your position. If I were being treated unfairly, and I knew I wasn't doing enough. Standing up to injustice is a skill," Jae-sung told her. "It takes practice. Next time you'll be braver. Today was your practice." "I hope I don't need a next time," Hana said softly. "There's always a next time," Jae-sung replied. "The world is full of moments where people need someone to speak up for them. You'll have another chance, and when you do, you'll remember how you felt today and you'll do better." Hana nodded slowly. She reached across the empty seat and offered her hand. "I'm Kim Hana. I work in marketing for a tech startup in Seoul." Jae-sung shook her hand. "Kwon Jae-sung, though I guess you know that now." "I'm really sorry this happened to you," Hana said. "It must happen a lot, doesn't it?" Jae-sung was quiet for a moment. He appreciated her directness. "More than people realize," he finally said. "Not always this dramatically. But yes, it happens. People see me and make assumptions. They see the hoodie and the backpack and decide I don't belong in certain spaces." "That's so unfair," Hana said. "It is," Jae-sung agreed, "but I've learned to handle it. I stay calm. I don't get angry. I let people reveal their prejudices and then I let the truth speak for itself." "You were so calm," Hana observed. "I would have been yelling or crying. Probably both. Anger would have made it worse," Jae-sung explained. "If I had raised my voice or acted aggressively, it would have confirmed their assumptions about me. They were looking for an excuse to call me threatening or dangerous. I couldn't give them that excuse. But that means you have to be perfect all the time," Hana said. "That means you can't even show normal human emotions." "Welcome to my life," Jae-sung said with a slight smile. "And the life of anyone who doesn't fit the expected image." They sat in silence for a moment as the plane accelerated down the runway. The engines roared and the aircraft lifted into the sky. Seoul fell away beneath them. Once they reached cruising altitude, a new flight attendant approached. She was an older woman with kind eyes and a gentle manner. Her name tag read Young Mi-sun. "Mr. Kwon," she said respectfully. "On behalf of the airline, I want to apologize for what happened before boarding. Is there anything I can get for you?" "Anything at all?" "I'm fine, thank you," Jae-sung said. "Are you sure?" Mi-sun asked. "Champagne? A meal? We want to make this right." "Honestly," Jae-sung said, "what would make it right is if your airline reviews its training procedures. Make sure your staff understands that passengers come in all forms. Teach them not to judge based on appearance." Mi-sun nodded seriously. "I promise you, Mr. Kwon, this incident will lead to major changes. Captain Lee is already in contact with corporate headquarters. There will be mandatory training for all crew members." "Good," Jae-sung said. "That's what I want to hear." As Mi-sun moved on to serve other passengers, Jae-sung noticed that no one was making eye contact with him. The people who had laughed earlier now stared intently at their phones or out the windows. The cabin was unusually quiet for first class. Robert Chen, the businessman in seat 3C, suddenly stood up and walked toward Jae-sung. He stopped in the aisle and cleared his throat. "Mr. Kwon," Chen said awkwardly, "I owe you an apology. What I said earlier was inexcusable. I made assumptions based on stupid prejudices. I'm sorry." Jae-sung looked at him. Chen seemed genuinely embarrassed, his face red and his hands fidgeting. "Why did you laugh?" Jae-sung asked directly. "What made you think it was okay to mock me?" Chen struggled for an answer. I don't know. Everyone else was doing it. The flight attendant seemed so sure you didn't belong. I went along with the crowd." "And if the flight attendants had been wrong about something else?" Jae-sung pressed. "If they had accused someone of stealing or of being dangerous, would you have laughed then too?" "No," Chen said quickly. Then he paused. "I want to say no. But honestly, after today, I don't know. I clearly didn't think for myself. I let other people's prejudices become my prejudices." "At least you're honest about it now," Jae-sung said. "That's more than most people would be." Chen pulled out a business card and handed it to Jae-sung. "I run an investment firm. If you ever need anything, please reach out, I mean it. I want to do better." Jae-sung took the card but didn't make any promises. Chen returned to his seat, looking somewhat relieved to have apologized but still clearly ashamed. A few minutes later, Margaret Hamilton approached. She was the woman who had been recording everything on her phone. She looked even more uncomfortable than Chen. "I deleted the video," she said without preamble. "I know that doesn't fix what I did. I know it doesn't undo the humiliation. But I wanted you to know I'm not posting it anywhere." "Why were you recording in the first place?" Jae-sung asked. Margaret's face flushed. "Because I thought it would be funny. I thought I was witnessing some guy getting caught trying to scam his way into first class. I thought it would get likes and shares on social media." She closed her eyes. "God, that sounds even worse when I say it out loud." "It is worse," Jae-sung agreed. "You were ready to humiliate a stranger for entertainment. You didn't know anything about me, but you were happy to mock me for internet points." "I know," Margaret whispered. "I know, and I'm so sorry. Do you do this often?" Jae-sung asked. "Record strangers in difficult situations?" Margaret thought about it. "More than I should," she admitted. "I see something interesting happening, and my first instinct is to pull out my phone. I don't think about the person involved. I just think about the content. Maybe think about the person next time," Jae-sung suggested. "Remember that the people in your videos are real human beings with feelings and dignity." "I will," Margaret promised. "I really will." She returned to her seat and Jae-sung turned back to the window. He was tired. These conversations were exhausting. Everyone wanted forgiveness, wanted to feel better about their behavior. But the burden of making them feel better fell on him, the person who had been wronged. Hana noticed his expression. "You don't have to accept everyone's apologies," she said softly. "You don't owe them forgiveness just because they feel bad." Jae-sung smiled slightly. "You're perceptive." "I'm also wondering something," Hana said. "Why do you dress so casually when you fly? You obviously know it causes problems. You could wear a suit or expensive clothes and avoid all of this." It was a fair question. Jae-sung had asked himself the same thing many times. "I could," he agreed. "I could dress in ways that make people immediately respect me. I could carry designer luggage and wear expensive watches and make sure everyone knows I'm wealthy. But if I did that, I would be playing into the same system that hurt me today." "What do you mean?" Hana asked. "The system says that respect comes from money," Jae-sung explained. "That people in expensive clothes deserve better treatment than people in cheap clothes. If I dress expensively to avoid discrimination, I'm agreeing with that system. I'm saying that yes, poor people should be treated badly, but I'm not poor, so treat me well." "But you're not saying that," Hana protested. "You're just protecting yourself." "Maybe," Jae-sung said. "But I'd rather challenge the system. I'd rather show up as myself and force people to confront their own prejudices. If everyone who could afford nice clothes wore them to avoid discrimination, then the people who can't afford nice clothes would face even more discrimination." Hana considered this. "That's a heavy burden to carry." "It is," Jae-sung acknowledged. "Some days I'm tired of being the test case. Some days I just want to wear a suit and avoid the hassle. But then I think about all the people who don't have that choice, who will always be judged by their appearance no matter what, and I feel like I owe it to them to keep challenging these assumptions." The flight continued across the Pacific Ocean. Hours passed. The initial tension in the cabin gradually eased. though an uncomfortable awareness remained. Passengers ordered meals and drinks. Some worked on their laptops. Others watched movies or slept. But everyone was more conscious of their behavior, more aware of their assumptions. Jae-sung pulled out his own laptop and began working. He had emails to answer and reports to review. His company didn't stop operating just because he was on a plane. Hana worked on her own laptop beside him, occasionally glancing over with curiosity but not wanting to disturb him. About 5 hours into the flight, Captain Sang-min emerged from the cockpit. The plane was on autopilot and his co-pilot was handling things temporarily. He walked to Jae-sung's seat and crouched down in the aisle. "Do you have a few minutes?" Sang-min asked quietly. "Of course," Jae-sung said, closing his laptop. Sang-min glanced around the cabin. "Would you mind coming to the galley? I'd like to speak more privately." Jae-sung unbuckled his seatbelt and followed the captain to the forward galley area. Misun, the flight attendant, gave them space to talk. "I wanted to thank you again," Sang-min said once they were alone. "Not just for the scholarship 25 years ago, but for how you handled today. A lesser man would have lost his temper, would have demanded punishment, would have made a scene. Making a scene would have made things worse," Jae-sung replied. "I learned that a long time ago. Still," Sang-min said, "your grace under pressure was remarkable. I also wanted you to know that I've been in contact with headquarters throughout the flight. The CEO is waiting to speak with you when we land. The entire executive team is horrified by what happened." "They should be," Jae-sung said. "But not because I'm a shareholder or a donor. They should be horrified because it could have happened to anyone." "You're right," Sang-min agreed. "And that's exactly what I told them. This isn't about protecting a VIP passenger. This is about protecting all passengers." "What's going to happen to Minju and the others?" Jae-sung asked. Sang-min looked surprised by the question. "They've been suspended. There will be an investigation. Most likely they'll be terminated. Why? Because I want to understand if they'll just be thrown away or if they'll be given a chance to learn," Jae-sung said. "Firing them is easy. It makes the airline look tough on discrimination. But it doesn't actually fix the problem. Those 3 people will go work somewhere else carrying the same prejudices with them." "What would you suggest?" Sang-min asked. "Use them," Jae-sung said. "Make them part of the solution. Have them participate in the new training program. Let them tell their story to other employees. Show what happens when you let prejudice override good judgment. People learn better from real examples than from abstract lectures." Sang-min stroked his chin thoughtfully. "That's a generous approach. More generous than they deserve." "Maybe," Jae-sung said. "But I'm not interested in revenge. I'm interested in change. If Minju can stand in front of a room full of flight attendants and say, 'I destroyed my career because I judged someone by their clothes,' that might actually prevent this from happening to someone else." "I'll pass that suggestion along," Sang-min promised. "Though I can't guarantee headquarters will go for it. They're pretty angry right now." "Anger is easy," Jae-sung said. "Change is hard." The captain smiled. "You sound like a teacher." "I had good teachers," Jae-sung replied. "My mother raised me alone in Seoul. We were poor, really poor. She cleaned offices at night to pay our rent. But she always told me that education and character were the only things nobody could take away from me." "Your mother sounds like a wise woman," Sang-min said. "She was," Jae-sung said softly. "She passed away 5 years ago." "I'm sorry," Sang-min said. "Did she get to see your success?" "She did," Jae-sung confirmed. "I made my first million when she was still alive. I bought her a house, set up a trust fund for her, made sure she never had to work another day if she didn't want to." He smiled at the memory. "She kept working anyway. Said she liked having something to do." "She sounds stubborn," Sang-min observed. "Very," Jae-sung agreed. "I get that from her. The ability to stay calm under pressure, the refusal to let others define my worth, the determination to succeed no matter what obstacles appear, all from her." "She would be proud of you today," Sang-min said. "The way you handled that situation with such dignity." "I hope so," Jae-sung said. "Though honestly, I'm tired. This isn't the first time something like this has happened, and it won't be the last. Sometimes I wonder if it's worth it, fighting these battles over and over again." Sang-min put a hand on Jae-sung's shoulder. "It is worth it. Because of people like you, people like me got opportunities we never would have had. You changed thousands of lives with your scholarship program. And today you might have changed this entire airline's culture. That matters." "I suppose it does," Jae-sung acknowledged. "Some days I just wish I could be treated like a normal person." "You are a normal person," Sang-min said. It's other people who are abnormal in their thinking. They stood in silence for a moment. Two men from different backgrounds united by an experience of unfair judgment and the determination to rise above it. Can I ask you something? Sang-min said. Why did you create the scholarship program in the first place? 25 years ago, you had just made your first million. Most people would have kept that money, invested it, tried to make more, but you immediately started giving it away to strangers. Jae-sung thought about how to answer, because I remembered what it felt like to have a dream and no way to achieve it. When I was younger, I wanted to be a pilot too, actually, just like you. But there was no money for training, no path forward. Eventually, I gave up that dream and focused on computers instead, because that was something I could learn on my own. You wanted to be a pilot? Sang-min asked, surprised. Very much, Jae-sung said. I used to watch planes take off from Incheon Airport and imagine myself in the cockpit, but it was impossible. So I let that dream die. When I finally made some money, I thought about all the other people out there with dead dreams, dreams that died not because they lacked talent or determination, but because they lacked opportunity. So you created opportunities, Sang-min said. I tried, Jae-sung said. I can't help everyone, but I can help some people, and those people go on to help others. It spreads. That's the theory anyway. It worked, Sang-min assured him. I've mentored at least a dozen young pilots myself. Several of them have told me they want to create their own scholarship someday, passing forward what was given to them. That's all I ever wanted, Jae-sung said, for the help to keep flowing forward. They talked for a few more minutes, sharing stories about their lives and careers. Then Sang-min had to return to the cockpit and Jae-sung went back to his seat. Hana looked up as he settled back into seat 2A. Everything okay? She asked. Yeah, Jae-sung said. Just talking with the captain. He seems like a good man, Hana observed. He is, Jae-sung agreed. He's someone who took an opportunity and made the most of it. The hours continued to pass. The sun moved across the sky outside the windows. Jae-sung dozed for a while, then woke up and worked some more. Hana did the same, occasionally asking him questions about business or technology. They developed an easy rapport, the kind of conversation that happens between strangers who find themselves unexpectedly connected by shared experience. Can I ask you something personal? Hana said during one of their conversations. Sure, Jae-sung replied. Do you ever get scared? Hana asked. Like what happened today could have gone much worse. What if the pilot hadn't recognized you? What if you had been forced off the plane? Then I would have called my lawyer and pursued legal action, Jae-sung said simply. And I would have won because I was right and they were wrong. But doesn't that scare you? Hana pressed. The uncertainty of it? It used to, Jae-sung admitted. When I was younger, every instance of discrimination felt like a threat to my existence. Like if I didn't fight back perfectly, if I didn't prove myself completely, I would be destroyed. But over time, I learned something important. What's that? I learned that my worth doesn't depend on other people's recognition, Jae-sung said. Minju didn't believe I belonged in first class, but I knew I belonged there. I had paid for the ticket. I had earned the money to pay for it. Her disbelief didn't change those facts. So while her behavior was frustrating and hurtful, it didn't actually threaten my reality. That's a powerful way to think about it, Hana said. It's necessary, Jae-sung replied. If I let every instance of prejudice shake my sense of self, I would be in constant turmoil. Instead, I stay grounded in what I know to be true about myself, regardless of what others think. I want to learn to think like that, Hana said, to be that secure in myself. It takes practice, Jae-sung told her. And honestly, some days are easier than others. Today was actually pretty easy because the truth came out quickly, but there have been other days when the truth didn't come out. When I was just dismissed or ignored or turned away and nobody ever knew they were wrong about me. How do you handle those days? I remind myself that their mistake is their loss, not mine, Jae-sung said. Every person who judges me unfairly loses the opportunity to know me, to work with me, to benefit from what I can offer. That's their problem, not mine, Hana smiled. You should write a book. Maybe someday, Jae-sung said. When I have time. Do you ever have time? Hana asked. Not really, Jae-sung admitted with a laugh. But that's okay. I like staying busy. The plane began its descent into San Francisco. The flight attendants prepared the cabin for landing. Passengers put away their laptops and raised their window shades. Outside, the California coast came into view, golden and beautiful in the afternoon sun. Jae-sung gathered his belongings and placed them back in his old backpack. Hana watched him with a small smile. "Still going to travel with that backpack?" she asked. "Absolutely," Jae-sung replied. "It's comfortable. It holds everything I need." "Why would I change?" "Because it causes you problems," Hana pointed out. "The backpack doesn't cause problems," Jae-sung corrected gently. "Other people's prejudices cause problems. Those are two different things." Hana nodded, understanding the distinction. "You're right. I'm going to try to remember that." The plane touched down smoothly on the runway. Captain Sang-min's voice came over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to San Francisco International Airport. The local time is 3:15 in the afternoon. On behalf of the crew, I want to thank you for flying with us today. I also want to remind everyone that respect and dignity should be the foundation of all our interactions, in the air and on the ground. Safe travels," it was a pointed message. Several passengers shifted uncomfortably in their seats. As the plane taxied to the gate, Jae-sung's phone buzzed with messages. His assistant had been trying to reach him. There were emails from the airline's corporate office. Apparently, word of the incident had spread quickly. The plane stopped at the gate and passengers began standing up to retrieve their luggage from the overhead bins. Jae-sung waited patiently, not in any rush. Hana stood beside him. "Thank you," she said suddenly. "For what?" Jae-sung asked. "For being gracious today," Hana said. "For teaching me something important. For showing me what real strength looks like." "You're welcome," Jae-sung said. "And thank you for speaking up even when it was hard." They exchanged business cards. Hana's card showed she worked for a small marketing firm in Seoul. Jae-sung's card was simple, just his name and contact information. "If you ever need anything," Jae-sung said, "reach out. People who stand up for what's right deserve support." Hana's eyes welled up slightly. "I will, thank you." They moved toward the exit together. As Jae-sung stepped into the jet bridge, Captain Sang-min was there waiting for him. "Mr. Kwon," the captain said. "The airline CEO is waiting in the terminal. She'd like to speak with you if you have time." "I have time," Jae-sung confirmed. Sang-min walked with him through the jet bridge. They emerged into the terminal where a woman in an expensive business suit stood waiting. She had several other executives with her, all looking nervous and apologetic. "Mr. Kwon," the woman said, stepping forward. "I'm Jennifer Park, CEO of the airline. I cannot express how deeply sorry I am for what happened to you today." "Thank you," Jae-sung said simply. "We've launched a full investigation," Jennifer continued. "The 3 employees involved have been suspended. We're reviewing all of our policies and training procedures. This should never have happened, and we're going to make sure it never happens again." "Captain Lee told me about the suspension," Jae-sung said. "I'd like to make a suggestion if I may." "Please," Jennifer said immediately. "Anything. Don't just fire those employees and forget about them," Jae-sung said. "Use them. Make them part of your new training program. Have them stand in front of other employees and explain what happened and what they learned. Real examples are more powerful than theoretical ones." Jennifer looked surprised. "You want us to keep them employed?" "I want you to give them a chance to grow," Jae-sung explained. "Firing them is easy. It looks good in a press release, but it doesn't actually fix the underlying problem. If they're willing to confront their prejudices and help train others, that creates real change." Jennifer exchanged glances with her executives. "That's remarkably generous of you." "It's practical," Jae-sung corrected. "I'm not interested in revenge. I'm interested in solutions." "We'll consider it," Jennifer promised. "In the meantime, we'd like to offer you a full refund for your ticket, complimentary first-class travel for a year, and a formal written apology from our board of directors." "I don't need a refund or free flights," Jae-sung said. "What I need is for you to implement mandatory anti-bias training for all staff. Not just flight attendants, gate agents, pilots, security personnel, everyone. And I'd like to help fund that training." Jennifer's eyes widened. "You want to fund training for the airline that discriminated against you?" "I want to fund training that will prevent the next person from experiencing what I experienced today," Jae-sung clarified. "Someone who doesn't have my resources or my ability to stand up for themselves. Someone who might just accept being humiliated because they don't know how to fight back." "That's incredibly noble," Jennifer said. "It's not noble," Jae-sung replied. "It's necessary. And honestly, it benefits me too. I fly your airline regularly. I'd rather fly with a crew that has been properly trained. We accept your offer, Jennifer said immediately. And we're grateful. Please have your people contact our HR department. We'll work together to develop the best possible training program. They shook hands. Jae-sung noticed several other passengers from his flight watching the interaction. Robert Chen stood nearby, clearly wanting to say something but unsure if he should approach. Jae-sung made the decision for him. He walked over to Chen. Mr. Kwon, Chen said nervously. I hope I'm not disturbing you. You're not, Jae-sung assured him. I just wanted to say again how sorry I am, Chen said. And I wanted you to know that I've been thinking about what you said on the plane. About how I let other people's prejudices become my own. That really struck me. Good, Jae-sung said. Reflection is the first step toward change. I run an investment firm, Chen continued. We make decisions about companies and entrepreneurs every day. And now I'm wondering how many good opportunities I've missed because I judged people by superficial things. How many talented people I've dismissed because they didn't look the way I expected them to look. Probably quite a few, Jae-sung said honestly. But now you know better. So you can do better, Chen nodded. I'm going to implement my own training program at my firm. About unconscious bias and fair evaluation. Would you be willing to speak to my team someday? Share your perspective? Send me an email, Jae-sung said. We'll figure something out. Chen looked relieved and grateful. He shook Jae-sung's hand and walked away. Margaret Hamilton approached next. She looked even more uncomfortable than Chen. Mr. Kwon, she said quietly. I know I already apologized on the plane, but I wanted to say it again. What I did was awful. I was ready to humiliate you for entertainment. That's really disturbing when I think about it clearly. Yes, it is, Jae-sung agreed. He didn't soften his words. I deleted my social media apps, Margaret said. All of them. I need to take a break from that constant need to document everything, to turn real life into content. That sounds like a healthy decision, Jae-sung said. I also made a donation, Margaret continued, to your scholarship fund. It's not much, but I wanted to do something positive. Thank you, Jae-sung said. That money will help someone pursue their dreams. Margaret looked like she wanted to say more, but she just nodded and walked away. Captain Sang-min was still standing nearby. He had witnessed all these interactions with interest. You're good at this, the captain observed. Dealing with people. Giving them what they need without being harsh or dismissive. I've had a lot of practice, Jae-sung said. More than I would like. Well, I hope this is the last time something like this happens to you, Sang-min said. It won't be, Jae-sung replied realistically. But maybe it will be the last time it happens to someone on your airline. That's my goal, Sang-min promised. I'm going to make sure every pilot and crew member understands what happened today and why it can never happen again. They shook hands warmly. Sang-min had to return to his duties and Jae-sung had meetings to attend. As Jae-sung walked through the airport terminal with his old backpack, several people recognized him from the plane. Some looked away guiltily. Others nodded respectfully. A few stopped to apologize for not speaking up. Jae-sung accepted each apology with grace. He understood that change was a process. People made mistakes. What mattered was whether they learned from those mistakes. He found a quiet corner and called his office. His assistant answered immediately. Jae-sung, I heard what happened. Are you okay? I'm fine, Jae-sung assured her. Just another day in the life. It shouldn't be, his assistant said angrily. You shouldn't have to deal with this. No, I shouldn't, Jae-sung agreed. But I do. So I deal with it the best way I know how. By staying calm, standing firm, and turning it into an opportunity for change. You're a better person than I am, his assistant said. I'm just a person who's had a lot of practice, Jae-sung replied. Now about those meetings in San Francisco. 6 months later, Jae-sung boarded another flight on the same airline. This time things were different. The gate agent who scanned his boarding pass smiled warmly. Welcome aboard, sir. Seat 2A is waiting for you. Inside the plane, a flight attendant greeted him. Good morning.
Can I help you with your bag?
I've got it, thank you, Jae-sung said. As he settled into his seat, he noticed the changes. There were new posters in the galley area about respecting all passengers. The flight attendants wore small pins that said, Dignity for All. A young flight attendant approached him. Her name tag read Lee Ji-won, Mr. Kwon. She said hesitantly, I just wanted to say thank you. Because of what happened to you, the airline implemented new training. We all went through it. And I learned a lot about my own biases that I didn't even know I had. I'm glad the training was helpful, Jae-sung said. It was more than helpful, Ji-won said. It was life-changing. One of the trainers was Park Min-ju, the flight attendant from your incident. She told us her story. She was so honest about her mistakes and what she learned. It really impacted me. She participated in the training? Jae-sung asked, genuinely pleased. Yes, Ji-won confirmed. She, the supervisor, and the security officer all did. They weren't allowed to work as regular crew anymore, but they became trainers. They travel around speaking to employees about unconscious bias. It's really powerful. That's exactly what I hoped would happen, Jae-sung said. Well, thank you, Ji-won said sincerely. Thank you for handling that situation with such grace. And thank you for giving those people a chance to redeem themselves. She moved on to greet other passengers. Jae-sung looked around the cabin. Everyone was being treated with equal respect, regardless of how they were dressed or what they looked like. The passenger next to him, a teenager in a hoodie similar to his own, settled into the seat with relief. I was kind of nervous about flying first class, the young person admitted. I saved up for months for this ticket. I was worried people would think I didn't belong here. You belong here as much as anyone, Jae-sung said. You paid for your seat. That's all that matters. Thanks, the teenager said. That actually makes me feel better. As the plane took off, Jae-sung reflected on the past 6 months. The airline had truly changed. The story of what happened had spread throughout the industry, prompting other airlines to review their own policies. Several companies had reached out to Jae-sung asking for help developing their training programs. Min-ju had sent him a long letter, apologizing again and describing her journey of self-discovery. She wrote about confronting her prejudices and learning to see people as individuals rather than stereotypes. She thanked him for suggesting she become part of the solution, rather than just being punished. The incident had been painful and humiliating, but it had also created real change. Thousands of airline employees had received better training. Countless passengers would be treated with more respect because of what happened that day. Jae-sung pulled out his laptop and got to work. He had emails to answer and projects to manage, but he also felt a deep satisfaction. He had turned a moment of discrimination into a catalyst for positive change. That was worth more than any first-class ticket. Outside the window, the clouds stretched endlessly in all directions, white and pure and full of possibility. Jae-sung smiled and got back to work, knowing that every small act of resistance, every moment of grace under pressure, contributed to building a better world, one flight at a time.